Today I am doing something very interesting, something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I'm finally here. I booked this 2 months ago. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm here for a meditation retreat for a couple of days. No phone, no technology, no talking, just pure silence. I'm here in Los Angeles today. I'm just coming from the airport right now. I just got dropped off. I'm here at the Lake Shrine Temple, established by Yogananda in the 1900s. And I got inspired to come here because I read his autobiography. But at the time, it was completely random. When I booked this, I just saw myself stumble upon this website online. And I booked it right away. It was something that happened so in alignment that I felt like I was meant to be here right now. But I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be my first time in a full immersive meditative experience all day for a couple of days. And what I'm really here to explore is awareness itself, the I. I am here to deepen my realization. I'm here to deepen my realization of self, get to know my true nature more and more. And, I'm going in with no expectations, but I'm open to any experience. So I know I'm here for a reason, and I feel great. Even on the way here, I was feeling very silent, very meditative, a thoughtlessness experience. And I'm about to go in right now, check in, and then you'll probably see me in like a second, 4 days later, but it's about to be 4 days of silence for me. Wish me luck. All right, let's go in. So that's a wrap on the 4-day meditation retreat here in Los Angeles, California. I feel incredible. The entire experience was amazing. Just breaking my silence now for the first time. So it actually kind of feels weird to be speaking. I actually had to do practice speaking before I even started shooting this. But it's the first time I've spoken in 4 days, which was an adventure on its own accord. But I want to share my experience with you, the things I learned, the experience I went through. So first, I'll just start off by kind of explaining to you about the accommodation and the temple here and the Self-Realization Fellowship itself. And then I'm going to share with you the greatest insights that I learned from this meditation retreat while being in silence. So stay tuned till the end, okay? Before even getting into any of that, I just want to say that 4 days without any technology, no filming on my camera, no phone. I still haven't turned my phone on. Just no thinking about goals, problems, other people has been amazing. It's been a very cleansing, reflective experience. And the atmosphere here, the vibration here, really aids in that meditative feeling, that experience that you come here for. So before I even get into that, I just want to say I'm at the Self-Realization Fellowship in Los Angeles, California. This was established by Paramahansa Yogananda in the 1920s. Yogananda was the one who brought the ideals and principles of yoga, the teachings of Kriya Yoga, to the West. So, yoga being so big here today is primarily because of him. And he brought it here in the 1920s, and really there's a lot of influence of Yogananda, especially in California. So that's where I'm at. And the accommodation itself is beautiful. As you can see that I'm sitting on my private balcony. I got this room for the 4 days that I was here. It has a private balcony. There's a private room right there. You'll be seeing the footage right now. All the footage that you're going to be seeing of this place that I'm at, I'm recording today. So there really was no technology for the past 4 days. But it's a beautiful room, very simple. Got my own private bathroom, so that was really nice too. But really, the vibration in the entire place, you know, from the outside courtyard with a beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean, the chapels that they have built over here, which have complete silence, the walkways that they have, which are surrounded by just complete greenery. Like literally as you're walking through those pathways, all you smell are just flowers. Beautiful scents, beautiful scenery. You see the hills of Los Angeles in the distance, greenery everywhere. So you truly feel that vibration. You feel that intense energy inside this place, if you're sensitive enough to feel it, if you're mindful enough to feel it. And so that's just been an incredible experience. But along with that, the staff here, like, they're so helpful. They're very nice. And I see that they're doing everything from love. Like, that's what I received here, you know? It's like everything here just vibrates love. Little details in the entire place. And that's one of the greatest things that I'm also taking away from here, to, you know, do everything with love and devotion. They also have a beautiful lake here. It's called Lake Shrine, which if you're from Los Angeles, you can actually come here and visit anytime. It's completely free. Lake Shrine is a meditative garden. So that's what they call it, meditation gardens. And you'll see that you're not really allowed to speak too much there. And it's just a very peaceful, relaxing vibe. And it's just greenery, flowers everywhere, beautiful lake. And you can just go there and just relax. You can read a book, you can meditate. So I've been taking advantage of that for sure. But there's like beautiful pathways in the garden as well. There's beautiful chapels. And again, just scents of flowers everywhere. So you could just feel that vibration everywhere, especially in the lake. In terms of the schedule of the meditation retreat, there were things scheduled. Basically, it was like an accumulation of just meditating in different spots throughout the day, which was cool. Like in the morning, you maybe meditate at the chapel, and then during the day, you meditate by the lake. But they did have a rough schedule for us, which we didn't have to follow like rigidly, but overall, it was like a very nicely organized retreat itself. While I was here, I was reading 2 books. One is Who Am I by Sri Ramana Maharishi. Actually, the other one is by him as well. It's called Be As You Are. This one has completely blown my mind. The other one did too, honestly. But I didn't read too much while I was over here. My aim was really just to meditate and go away from all doing, even if it's those little things like reading. However, I was, exploring certain ideas and concepts, certain teachings on which I meditated. So those 2 books are really doing it for me right now. They're really taking my realization deep. And those are the concepts that I've been kind of exploring here on the retreat. But I remember the first day I got here, before I got here, I was in a very meditative kind of space. But when I got here, it's almost like my mind started to really get more active. And I was seeing that in the presence of other people who were holding silence, right? When you're in the outside world, everybody's this constant mental activity. But when you get here, you see other people who are holding that silence as well, that stillness of mind. And what I saw, that in the presence of those people, my mind was being more turbulent. And I was really having to face a lot of the stuff that, it's just like a lot of the thoughts that just wouldn't stop. So I remember I was having a little bit of trouble the first day. The second day, it got a little better. I was getting used to a lot of the routines here, the etiquette here. And my mind was kind of getting a little more still. But I still wasn't experiencing, I still wasn't able to go deep in my meditations for some reason. The third day is when a lot of it's really started to kick in. I really started to get really silent, and I started having those realizations that I was kind of looking for. The third day, yesterday, was really when I put in that work, to get still. Because I was like, I didn't just come here. A retreat is not a vacation. It's not here to relax and everything, It's actually to dive deeper and really do the inner work. So yesterday I was very vigilant in my self-inquiry, thoughts of who am I? Who are these thoughts occurring to? Trying to find the source of the mind. And through that, I saw myself getting deeper and deeper and more still. I learned over here, to not treat a retreat like a vacation. To treat it like an actual type of cleansing or like a purification process, to prioritize your values while you're here, to actually do the inner work. The main thing I came here for was stillness, right? To see how when I'm getting away from all doing and just focusing on being still for a couple of days, how still my mind actually gets. But what I ended up getting was a lot greater. I gained more perspective on how I should conduct myself and my activities when I do go out in the outside world, in which way I should conduct those. What should be my greatest value, like the reason, my why, for why I do what I do. So I was just reflecting over a lot of those things, along with being still. And one of my greatest takeaways, which I want to share with you, is from one of those books that I've really been meditating on. So I got the book right here. It's called Who Am I by Ramana Maharishi. And what I want to share with you is about the nature of happiness. So happiness is the very nature of the self. Happiness and self are not different. There is no happiness in any object of the world. We imagine through our ignorance that we derive happiness from objects. When the mind goes out, it experiences misery. In truth, when its desires are fulfilled, it returns to its own place and enjoys the happiness that is the self. Similarly, in states of sleep, samadhi, and fainting, and when the object desired is obtained, or object disliked is removed, the mind becomes inward turned and enjoys pure self-happiness. And that is so major. We always hear happiness resides within, happiness is within. But what does that really mean? And that's one of my greatest takeaways from this trip, from this retreat. Happiness is not somewhere within. Happiness is the self. So yeah, you could say it is within, but it is who you are. The nature of the self is happiness. The mind is an activity within the self. And so the mind can either be outward turned or inward. In the outside world today, it is always outside. The mind is constantly going outside to achieve, to attain objects, things like success, love, because it wants to feel happiness. But happiness does not lie in any object of the world, and not just physical objects, but even people. Everything that you see on the outside is just a thought form. Everything that you see outside is inert. It has no life within it. It has no happiness within it. It is only when the mind starts to turn inward that it starts to experience the self, of which the result is happiness, because the nature of the self is happiness. So even when the mind gets something in the outside world, achieves an object or an accolade or whatever, or a person, the mind becomes inward turned. Have you noticed the times when you have been happiest in your life is when you weren't seeking, is when you weren't chasing, but instead when your mind was going inward and was just resting with itself because things were just perfect. But the happiness you felt was not in those objects or those people. It was in your ability to just be inward. And so if the nature of self is happiness, and happiness is what we're constantly seeking, there's nothing to seek. Just become inward. Turn the mind inward rather than constantly thinking about outside things, about chasing the outside things, about attaining the outside things. Disengage from those thoughts. Instead, ask yourself, who is having those thoughts? You'll see it's the self that is having those thoughts. And the more it goes within, the more it disengages. The more you disengage from the mind and you go within, through meditation, through self-inquiry, you will start noticing and experiencing natural happiness. Something I experienced on this trip. And I'll just tie that realization in with my next greatest one, which is that the mind is nothing other than thoughts. The mind is thoughts. There is no other separate entity called the mind other than thoughts. The mind is just the accumulation of thoughts. So the thing that stops you from going inward, right, and experiencing the self, is what we call the mind, is what we call the ego. But the ego doesn't actually exist. There is no actual existence. It is a complete fabrication of the mind. The very nature of the thoughts is the ego. Like, the ego is created because those thoughts exist. The ego has no existence of its own. It's a complete borrowed mental projection. It's an activity that is happening within the self, within consciousness. And so the ego becomes the link between the body, which is just inert. The body is not you, right? Like, if you cut yourself up, like when you die, you're not gonna find who you truly are. Like, if this body dies, right, and after it dies you cut it up, you're not gonna find Sunny anywhere. There's no Sunny here. There is no self here. So the ego becomes like the in-between link between the body and the self. And the self, the consciousness, as in its manifested form, right, which is the world, it falsely identifies with the body. And the way it does that is through the first thought. The emergence of the first thought is the emergence of the ego, emergence of your personality. The first thought is I. All other thoughts about everything else emerge from the first thought, which is I. And so once you start to inquire, who is having these thoughts? Who am I? Like, that sense of I that you feel right now, right? You might say, okay, so if you're asking me the question, who am I? I'm gonna be like, I'm Sunny. Okay, but who is Sunny, right? Like, where is Sunny within? Find Sunny within. Who am I? That sense of I that you feel when you say I. Focus on that feeling. Explore that feeling. Ask yourself, who is experiencing the I? And when other thoughts keep coming, ask yourself, to whom do these thoughts arise? You'll say I. And then maintain that awareness of I am. And then more thoughts come. And so you constantly ask yourself again and again, to whom do these thoughts arise? You'll say to I, to me. Who am I? And then hold that feeling, hold that sense of I. And the more you do so, this is the process of the mind turning inward rather than going outside. The mind going outside, what that means is you constantly just thinking about thoughts, like you just constantly entertaining your thoughts. But once you start to ask yourself, to whom do these thoughts occur? Now you're going inward. When you say I, it's like, who am I? Inward. And so I'm learning through these books by Ramana Maharishi is that this is the direct path to self-realization. The more you explore the thoughts of who am I and to whom do these thoughts occur, these two questions will get rid of every other thoughts that you have. And once you start getting rid of those thoughts, once you start destroying those thoughts with the thought, who am I? The mind becomes inward turned and it starts to experience the self until even the thought I no longer remains. And then you start to experience the self, which is everything. So that's something for you to think about, something for you to contemplate, something for me to meditate on for the next however long. But let me know if you'd like me to kind of make more videos about that and share my experience with that in the comment section below. I'll make it in further videos. But now I'm done here. I'm about to check out today. It's a beautiful sunny day. The only thing I don't like about this place, at least in my room, there's so much traffic out here because it's a very busy area in Santa Monica, so there's constant traffic. But I hope that didn't bother you too much during this video. But I'm about to meet up with two of my friends who are actually flying in from New York today. We're going to spend about 2-3 days here, and then I'm headed back home. So I'm really excited for the rest of my time in LA. I'm going to be exploring now. Hope you like this video. If you do want to do a retreat here, It is free. It is completely donation based, so you can feel free to look up Self-Realization Fellowship. I'll actually link it down below in the description box. Give them a call. If you'd like to come here and do a retreat for a couple of days, do so. Explore that. It's a beautiful experience and a beautiful establishment. So that's all from me for today. I'll see you in the next video.